Good day to you coders, and thank you for supporting us on Project Code Library. In this video, we'll be discussing thread states and control. So for those that haven't joined us in prior multi-threading videos, what we have here going on right now is we have two classes that are implementing the runnable interface. We have class 1, class 2, and they are printing out they're printing out 1 and 2. And so if we were to run this right now, you'll see that these two methods are printing concurrently. So you'll get 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And in our main method, if y'all are wondering, we have two threads working. The first thread is running this method by calling t1.start, and t2.start will call this method. So let's say I print out something here, system.out.println, and then let's say done. So what you would think would happen is this would execute after our thread 1 and thread 2 have finished. However, if we run this, you'll notice our done is actually near the top. So you're probably wondering, that's pretty weird. Why is this happening? So if we look back at this, let's look at this retrospectively. So we have technically three threads. One is our main thread, one is our thread 1, and one is our thread 2. Our main thread is only executing this, and it's also creating the objects. Our thread 1, it runs the run method in the 1 class. Our thread 2 runs the run method in the 2 class. And so what the main method is doing is essentially it's just running this, creating objects, and doing that. So in order to execute this after our threads are done, we will do something called, we will use a method called the join method. So what will the join method do? What the join method essentially does is it waits for the thread to be terminated. It waits for the thread to be finished, and so once T1 has run the run method once, the thread will terminate, and then once T2 has done the same, it'll also terminate, and then it will print out done. So if we run this right now, alright, so we need to actually handle this exception right here. And so in order to handle this exception, what we can just do is we can do a little try catch right here. So try catch exception. And so if we do that, you'll notice that done will come at the end. And so essentially that is the gist of the join method. It'll just wait until those threads are terminated until it prints out the done. And so the next thing that I'd like to go over is the isAlive method. So if we do system.out.println t1.isAlive, and let's print this very same thing out here after making the thread, or after starting the thread. So you'll notice the first isAlive prints out a true, the last isAlive prints out a false. So what the isAlive method tells you to do is if the thread is still running. And so when we start it, the thread is running, and therefore it is alive. But then after the thread is terminated, T1 is no longer running, and therefore isAlive returns false. The last thing I want to cover, it's something we've already actually covered, and that is the thread.sleep. So thread.sleep will essentially pause the execution flow for that much amount of time. And so, for example, here in our main thread, it pauses it for 10 milliseconds, and after 10 milliseconds, it'll start the T2 thread. And with that being said, that is essentially all I have to cover for the thread states and control video. If you guys have any questions, put them down in the comments below and we'll get to them. Thank you so much for joining us.